Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Bracha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And got a few headlines here for today. Starting off with here from Zero Hedge, 41 people in U.S. under monitoring for the HV, according to the CDC. So I think maybe a week or so ago, there was about, from what I heard, three cases, at least they were monitoring. And that doesn't, that's not to say that it has jumped from 3 to 41, but it could have always been, higher than 3. And it's just 3 were, or however amount they had started with was what they were aware of at the time. But anyway, 41 people are under monitoring in the United States for the HV. The CDC and CDC said on May 14th. And when you read this, it basically, goes into like certain people, right? You had some that were able to get off the Hyundai vessel before coming in contact, before this outbreak, right? It says most of those being monitored were at one time on board the MV cruise ship that experienced an outbreak of the disease after it sailed from Argentina on April 1st to remote locations such as Antarctica. 18 people were flown from the ship recently to medical facilities in Nebraska and Georgia for quarantining. Now check this out. During the incubation period for the V, which is up to 42 days. Damn. Okay, well over a month. Some other individuals left the ship before the HV outbreak was detected and are at home in states such as Arizona and California. At home, are they under house arrest? Are they staying at home? Are they still coming in contact with people? The third group is composed of people who were exposed to HV during travel because they came close to cruise ship passengers, particularly on planes. Because remember, like somebody takes a cruise ship, but that might not be the end of their vacation, or maybe it ends at a certain destination. And like it says, they take a flight somewhere else. So they come in contact with people there. So that's the whole thing where they talk about contact tracing, right? Who you've come in contact with, and, sort of trying to map out all the different places you've been in and so on and so forth. But a 42-day quarantine period is a pretty long time. But what's interesting here is that it's not like they're saying like everybody who we know has been near or possibly exposed, we're putting under like strict, mandatory quarantine. They're not saying that, right? And they're still saying that the risk to the public is low, but we'll see. All right, so 11 Hyundai passengers worldwide have been confirmed or are suspected to have contracted HV, according to the WHO. 3 people who were on board and either tested positive or showed symptoms of the V, such as fever, have died. Well, shit. So this is the part right here, right? It says no mandatory quarantine orders have been imposed as of yet in the United States. Now, when you go back a couple of years ago, dealing with the lockdowns of CV, it was the same thing, right? People were like, yo, well, why are you still keeping like flights open? Why, they said Wuhan in China is where the outbreak was, but they were still allowing flights into the country from there. Other states, including Maryland, New Jersey, and Washington State, have said residents were possibly exposed on flights. And if the incubation period is that long, then really, like they say, you can go a long period of time without even knowing that you have come in contact with somebody who has this, because they themselves probably didn't even know, right? Until you start showing, signs or symptoms. See, the CDC says the risk to the public is low, with HV transmission believed to only occur through close contact with infected people or their bodily fluids. That's as of now, right? So at whatever point, if they come out and say, oh, the risk is now higher than we thought, then they can, probably one of the main justifications for that would say that, well, we thought that it could only transmit from human to human through close contact or bodily fluids, but now that's not the case. And I forget which like research group or where I saw this, but there was mention about them saying they should treat it as though it's airborne, okay, because that's like the nature of these things. You never know, when it well, the key word that they threw around so much before to explain the different variants was mutate. Right, you never know when it can mutate. So the next headline here, this is also an interesting one. Killshot is coming for Earth, warned CIA remote viewer before recent death. A retired U.S. Army major and former CIA-linked remote viewer issued stark final warnings of a devastating solar kill shot before his death in March, claiming the current period of heightened solar activity could trigger infrastructure collapse on a global scale. Now, what's interesting about this is it reminds me of, I think it's in, we'll come back to Amos here, but I think it's in Revelation 16. Let me see. And yeah, Revelation 16 and 8, right? And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. And when you go into Revelation 16, it also goes into some of the plagues and events that would take place in this time leading up to the period of Armageddon, right? So it's interesting here that you have this story about this ex or previous former CIA-linked remote viewer who's warning about Killshot. A name like Killshot doesn't sound too friendly. Retired Major Ed Dames, who participated in the U.S. government's classified remote viewing programs during the Cold War, described the event as enormous solar blasts that would knock out power grids, communications, and essential services, potentially leading to millions of immediate deaths and widespread societal breakdown. Shit. Dames died at age 76. In his last recorded interviews, he tied the timing directly to solar cycle 25 and the recent passage of Comet C 2023A3. Let's see if he was linked to Project Stargate, a declassified U.S. intelligence initiative that ran from 1970s to 1995, which explored whether psychic phenomena, particularly remote viewing, the claimed ability to perceive distant or hidden targets mentally, could be used for espionage. Now that's interesting. Might need to do some research on that. The program originated amid Cold War concerns that the Soviet Union was investigating similar psychic capabilities. So you got to think about it, right? Like, these are things that if somebody came out and spoke about in the public, they would be looked at as like, yeah, that's conspiracy stuff, that's make believe. But why then is the CIA, right, or different like governments actually spend? Do you think that this project is free? Hell no, it's not free. It costs a lot of money. But to spend money on things like this, why? If it's just impossible and there's things that you see in sci-fi movies and so on, why spend so much money on that? Interesting. It makes you think. It makes you think. And we're gonna take a look at that remote viewing. Let me see. Let's look at that here. What is remote viewing? CIA. A CIA remote viewer was a participant in specialized government funded programs such as Stargate. That's cool. So RV is the claimed ability to perceive with the mind impressions of a distant, hidden, or future target without using traditional senses. That's what remote viewing is. Remote viewers often worked in laboratory settings at the Stanford Research Institute, using a beacon or target person as a remote site to send impressions, which the viewer would then sketch or describe. Very interesting. So yeah, I'll do some more digging in that and see what that's up with. Might maybe have to do another video on that, but that's definitely something interesting. So this guy who, as it says, was a remote viewer, basically made this. Well, let's actually read it down here. Let's see. Yeah, so Dames, who had served in airborne infantry and later as a tactical electronic warfare officer, transferred into the remote viewing unit after studying biophysics and Mandarin at UC Berkeley. He maintained that remote viewers sometimes supplied intelligence unavailable through conventional means. The Stargate project was, at least officially, shut down in 1995 after official reviews claimed it had not delivered reliable operational value. Okay. And in one of his last interviews recently released, Dame stated, "Right now we are at the beginning of the solar cycle. 25 solar max. Solar max should last for about 2 years, and the sun's doing unprecedented stuff. There are more solar spots than there have been in the last 20-something years." He continued, "I predict that this solar max will be the beginning of the Killshot sequence. But intriguingly, the comet C-2023A3 that's in the sky. The timing of that appearance and the orbit exactly matches this passing space body with this huge event called the Killshot looming ahead." That's pretty interesting. This comet we described as a passing space body. We didn't know what it was, a planetoid or a comet, either one that is a concomitant with the initiation of the Killshot sequence. And this comet, the trajectory and the timing is a perfect match. It says here, he warned of practical consequences, like an event where you wake up and there's no power, there's no water, there's no gasoline. It's going to be a bad nightmare scenario. That's what you're going to be confronted with. The government is not going to help you. So this guy worked in the CIA. This is what he's saying. And once again, when you go back to that letter, right, with Albert Pike, he did mention about basically releasing the horrors of the origins of savagery. These are the words they used. He had previously written, "The true devastation of today's Killshot will be unlike anything we have previously seen in history, with solar radiation actually hitting ground level, resulting in the initial deaths of millions, with implications resulting in economic collapse, war, ... war, and many more." See what else we got here. Okay. What's that? Billionaires are transforming locations into exclusive enclaves and constructing fortified bunkers in anticipation of what they term the event. So whatever the case is, right, regardless, maybe whatever he's saying, this may have some facts to it, or it may not. But that the part about these billionaires and building these bunkers, that is not conspiracy theory. That's real. Now, once again, these bunkers are not cheap. Why would you, having this money, invest in that? Clearly, they're concerned and worried or expecting or anticipating something. Yeah, it says these ultra-wealthy elites are purchasing private islands in Hawaii, Fiji, and New Zealand while building underground shelters. All right, it gives an example here about Mark Zuckerberg and so on and so forth. So, yeah, we'll see, but just something interesting to keep in mind, right? This warning here about the Killshot sequence that apparently is going to be something very devastating, but we'll watch and see. We know that there's a reason the Lord says in Jeremiah 30:7, along with many other precepts, that it'll be a time like never before. moving on here. This will be pretty brief. Apparently there was a grenade kind of explosive, right, that was found at the Alabama Dam. All right. And they say that this reservoir holds about 17 billion gallons of water, right, serving as a primary drinking water source for 350,000 people in that area. So had this, now they said they were able to detonate it safely, right? Obviously in a area, in a manner where it wouldn't cause damage. But the question is, what is a grenade type bomb doing here at the bottom of this dam? How did it get there? When did it get there? And what was the intent behind it? It says, this is an unprecedented threat, and we are fortunate that this device was discovered before it could cause serious damage to our water supply or harm to individuals. See, but eventually it'll get to a point where you won't have the ability to be fortunate that you discovered something before, because when it's being reported on, it'll be reported on in the sense of the damages that X, Y, and Z has actually caused. That's the direction the world is headed in. Again, this is the lead up to the ultimate day of the Lord. We are grateful for the professionalism and competency of our law enforcement partners, yada, 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 yada. Cool. So now I want to go back to what I had before, which was Amos. And I think it was Amos 5 and, yes, 18. Right. Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. So now you got to think, we are getting closer and closer to the day of the Lord. And yet the news that you're seeing and hearing about more and more is like things straight out of sci-fi movies, things straight out of the deepest parts of conspiracy theories, as they labeled it before, right? Things in the realm of violence, of fear, of supernatural danger. Like these are the kinds of things that you're hearing about, right? That is real life now. So what does that tell you about if as you get closer to the day of the Lord, this is the theme or the setting of the world? What do you think that's leading up to? That's why it says, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord, because there are people that they have this completely warped expectation of how the Lord is and what the day of the Lord is going to be like. When you read the scriptures, you'll understand it's going to be a day of great judgment and destruction. That's the initial impression the world will get when the Lord visits this place. Verse 19, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. And this is basically just describing the inability to escape, right? You run from one situation, one life-threatening, dangerous situation right into another. Just when you thought you can catch a break and you escape from that, you get got by something you didn't even see coming. Okay, this is the times that, not that we're approaching, these are the times that we're in. So people need to wake up and turn back to the Lord while you still have just the tiniest sliver of time left. Because any day now, the world is going to change. And it's going to change in a point where you cannot go back. Remember, time doesn't go in reverse. We're not time travelers, right? We can't go in reverse. So once, as time progresses forward and as things change, these world-changing events take place, that's that. The only time before that is going to exist in your memories. So anyway, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.